I'm going to be honest, I'm recording this for the second time because I forgot to hit record on the camera. I was so close to being done. Welcome back to Rewind with bschwitty, because you can't handle the truth. I'm just going to take a moment here to say it's really good to be back. Congratulations, bschwitty, on getting through harvest. We took in our last grapes last Saturday. Not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before. And I'm really sorry that I didn't get back on the ball immediately. I got you a new Wind Down Wednesday last week. Friday just kind of fell apart. I had some technical difficulties, and then it just technology, man. Anyway, I just wanted to say we had a good harvest. It was long and arduous. It went longer than I thought it would be. So all the content that I had pre-recorded up to that point didn't cover what I was doing, but we got the harvest vlogs, which I thought was a fun look into our process, if not very quick and thrown together quite fast. But that being said, I'm back. I'm dedicated. We're doing some fun stuff this week. Today we're going to be talking about growing conditions, which is suggested by user KershawLover. On Wednesday, for Wind Down Wednesday, we're going to see if the redneck aerator actually works. And then finally on Friday, we have a special interview with the assistant winemaker of Midnight Cellars. And when we get there, you're going to be surprised. But I just wanted to thank you, the viewer, the subscribers, all of you out there who are watching this. Thank you so much for sticking with me through these past 20 weeks. And we're going to be having some new content and pushing forward through the end of the year. And I do want to apologize to KershawLover. I told him or her that we would be doing this topic for Wine Basics 2 weeks ago. It was their birthday. I was going to give them a birthday shout out. So happy birthday, KershawLover. Belated by 2 weeks. I'm really sorry. If all of you out there could type in the comments, happy birthday, that would be great. I'm really sorry that I couldn't get to it. So today, on Wine Basics, as suggested by user KershawLover, we are going to be talking about different growing conditions, different factors that affect the wine. I'm just going to give a brief overview, little tricks of the trade, rules of thumb, etc., etc. And we're going to start with climate. Grapes grow in a temperate climate, which you probably know is between the tropic zone and the Arctic zone. For your frame of reference, in the northern hemisphere in North America, that's from about midway through Mexico all the way up to parts of Canada, which is why you'll see grapes grown all across the United States and parts of Mexico and parts of Canada. I don't really know on the southern hemisphere where the tropic cuts off. I believe it's the Tropic of Capricorn. It's the Tropic of Cancer is in the northern hemisphere. Don't quote me on that. I was never great at geography. But I believe that starts somewhere about a quarter of the way down to a third of the way down South America and down there until you hit the southern Arctic region. Cool versus warm climate. That's probably one of the biggest things that somms try to use to deduce where a wine's from. They'll work backwards like detectives. Cooler climates will have higher acids and lower alcohol, whereas warmer climates will have lower acids and higher alcohol content. This is one of the biggest tricks to help narrow down what country or what area a wine's from when you're doing blind tasting, and that's actually really helpful. So commit that to memory if you can. Next up is the weather. Rain and water is very important to grape growing. The timing of the rain is also quite important. If it's too late in the growing season, it will swell up the grapes, dilute the flavor and the acid and the sugar content, which could kind of ruin your wine. And then a drought, on the other hand, the lack of rain, will possibly concentrate the flavors and reduce the crop yield, which is great for people who love flavor but don't like the price of wine going up because there's not as much wine produced. Sunlight is important. It is what helps ripen the grapes and increase the sugar levels in the grapes. Factors of sunlight that are important to grape growing include the angle of sunlight, the amount of sunlight that throughout the day the vines receive, and the amount of sunlight throughout the growing season that they receive. That is something for another time to get into really deep. I'm sure there's a 200 level course at your local college that could explain it better than me. Next up, soil. There's this French term called terroir. James May, a former Top Gear host and now host of the Grand Tour, shudders every time he hears that word, terroir. And it's a French word that has no direct translation in English, but it kind of signifies, it's a word for the soil, the terrain, the growing conditions, and etc. that influence the wine. And that's something that really does kind of affect the wine. And what you'll learn is that, like, the soil type, the minerals in the ground will influence the notes in the wine. For example, in Northern California, in El Dorado Hills area, it's very iron-heavy soil, and that really shows up in the wine. There's a lot more iron flavors, minerality in the wine. Around here, there's calcareous soils, so a limestone flavor will get layered in there. And it's not that it's an overwhelming flavor, it's just it influences the minerality, it adds an extra layer of intrigue and sophistication to the wine. You may have seen that article a few years ago about how plants absorb minerals from the ground, from the soil, into their leaves, and there's that tree that absorbed gold deposits and ended up having gold in their leaves. I thought that was a great example of how grapes and plants in general can be influenced by the ground, the soil that they're in. In addition to soil type, the amount of water that it receives is very important. It will affect the yield of the grapes, like I was saying earlier, and how concentrated the flavors will be. Too much water could overcrop. Not enough water will leave them dead. And then there's a special subsection in there called irrigation versus dry farming. Dry farming is where you just let nature take its course. The amount of water that you get is dependent on how much rain you get that year. Whereas in irrigation, you're bringing groundwater up to at least give a little bit extra water to the grapes and the vines. And it really depends on the climate and that you live in, how much rain that you get per year, and again, just on the season itself. Nature's fickle, and sometimes you just want to make sure that you have a contingency in place. But to each their own, and each different style produces a different, unique wine. And that's what I really love about wine, is that even in a place like Paso Robles, there's 300 different microclimates out there. The terrain changes rapidly from one area to the other, and it's just, you could walk a mile and have completely different tasting wine, which is really fun to just see all the different grapes that are produced and that we get to produce out here. So let me know if that explained anything. Did it make it more confusing to you? Again, throw some happy birthdays in the comments below for KershawLover. I'm really happy to be back. I'm really excited about where we're going in the next few weeks. And yeah, I'm glad to get some time to dedicate back to the show. And I'm just really happy to be here with you, and the fact that you're still here is awesome. So I'll see you Wednesday. This has been bschwitty Rewind. I will catch you next time.